Right now, I'm going to stick to what I said earlier. If you don't know the story, I'll tell it to you again. You can go right now and see it on michaelsavage.com. You watch the video yourself, and you watch these thuggish cops taking down this black man and choking him to death, pressing his face against the concrete, and you tell me why there was no indictment against this Officer Daniel Pantaleo. First of all, forget the white-black issue, although that's a big part of it. Pantaleo, in my opinion, is a common bar thug and a coward. If you watch the video, your heart will break for the victim, Eric Garner. Okay, he broke the law. And you know what the law was? He was selling unlicensed cigarettes. And he had a rap sheet of minor crimes. And that is a reason the father of 6 should die? Because this thuggish cop with a gun and a club has a right to say you're resisting arrest? You watch that video. They didn't go up to him and say you're under arrest, let us cuff you. No. 6 of these punk thugs jumped on Eric Garner and choked him to death. You could watch Eric Garner, the black man, begging for his life as he is on the ground, saying, I'm choking, and he died. Now, I told you when this first happened that I felt that this was a murder on the part of the NYPD. What was Garner doing? He was not selling crack. He was not raping anyone. He was not murdering anyone. This guy was selling unlicensed cigarettes, known as Lucy's. They went up to him and they said, come on now, you can't sell them, you're under arrest. So he basically didn't put his hands in a pair of cuffs. I'm sure he would have gotten into a car with them. But no, they had to take him down like he was an animal. They treated him like an animal. Eric Garner, a 43-year-old father of 6, was killed on July 17th when Officer Pantaleo subdued him on a Tompkinsville, Staten Island street with a banned chokehold. Let me repeat that. This punk coward cop used a banned chokehold. Watch it for yourself. He choked the man to death. The man was screaming, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. Well, another one of the punks with a badge and a club and a gun jumps in and starts to grind the black man's face into the pavement. I said then, as I'm saying now, that this grand jury decision is 100% wrong, and it's not the police right or wrong. It's never going to be that way with me. I'm not that kind of guy. Ferguson, yes, I was on the side of Officer Wilson. The Garner case, wrong. This policeman should have been indicted, and he should have been tried for first-degree murder as far as I'm concerned. I'd like your opinion of this incendiary decision by a grand jury in New York City just minutes ago. This is a talk radio program, unlike television, where you have to sit and watch like a dummy. You can call this show, The Savage Nation, at 855-400-7282. 855-400-7282 with your commentary. And here's the question. What is your reaction to the New York policeman being cleared by the grand jury? Do you think it's the correct decision simply because he's a cop? Or do you think that they actually killed Eric Garner? I'm asking you to go watch that videotape if you haven't seen it anywhere else. I put it up on michaelsavage.com. Watch these thugs with badges and guns take this man to the ground, and as he's on the ground, grind his face into the concrete as he's begging for his life, and they killed him. What do you think? Again, the phone number is 855-400-7282. If we have the audio of Eric Garner begging for his life, would you please play it now?
Put your hand behind your back. I can't breathe. 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 I can't breathe.
Oh, my God, it's heartbreaking. The man is saying, I can't breathe. It's like watching a wounded animal being killed in front of your eyes. But it's not a human animal. It's a human being. They treated him worse than they would treat a dog. These cops are murderers. I'm sorry. Don't tell me I'm wrong, because I'll rip you to pieces verbally. These cops are killers. They're trained murderers on the streets, and there's no excuse for this grand jury decision. None whatsoever. And I'm not Al Sharpton. I'm Michael Savage. And my bona fides in the conservative media are well established for 20 years. I have supported the police from the get-go, but when they commit a murder like this, don't expect me to light up the Christmas tree and say hallelujah. No, sirree, Bob. Again, if you want to sound off, a Staten Island jury just said, that Staten Island Grand Jury, that is, they're not going to indict an officer, the NYPD, for killing Eric Garner with a chokehold. Now, the fact of the matter is, Garner was a father of 6. He looked like a true gentle giant. His crime was minor. It was nothing. He was selling Lucy's in the street. They took him down like an animal. And as he was on the ground, they put him in a chokehold to get him to the ground. One officer did. And I watched that video. I almost screamed. I almost cried months ago when I first saw it. And I said this was murder. This was not a justified situation in that regard. Yet the Staten Island District Attorney and the Civilian Complaint Review Board, which launched probes, did say nothing. But after several months of reviewing the evidence, the panel, which consisted of 15 white and 8 black or Hispanic jurors, if you must know, finally concluded there was not enough evidence to charge Pantaleo with a crime. My friends, this is murder. This is not the same as the situation in Ferguson, not at all. And by the way, Pantaleo has had incidents in the past of using excessive force. He's faced the police review boards before. He had been accused of false arrest and violating police procedures in 2 previous lawsuits. That unto itself doesn't mean anything. There are rough cops and good cops who are rough. And there are rough cops who are bad cops. Pantaleo is a rotten apple, in my opinion. And he was not only accused of putting Eric Garner in a fatal chokehold, he did put him in one. Just watch it with your own eyes. We've got calls rolling in at 855-407-282 from around the nation. Pete in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Go ahead. Your opinion, please. What do you think here? What's your reaction?
Michael, you are 100% right. Ferguson, obviously the guy fought with the cop. I've seen the video. I watched it when it first came out. They choked him out, and they killed him, and it's plain and simple. They had 6 guys. They could have easily, de-escalated the situation, talked him down, had at one point he tried to struggle. Where's the taser? Where's the less than lethal? Obviously it's a banned chokehold, and for them not to indict at least one of the officers, some type of justice. And
well, Pantaleo is the one who choked him to death. Look at the video. Anyone listening to the show, go and look at the video. Mr. Garner is not swinging. He's not threatening officers. He's not cursing them. He's not like Ferguson. He's not fighting with them. All he was trying to do was explain the situation.
Right.
Okay, so he was trying to talk his way out of it. They could have said, please come to the car. Come on, you know what you're doing. Look, I try to stay away from controversial racial news. But this case had the most compelling evidence I've ever seen in my life. At the very least, it should have been taken to a jury in a court of law. Do you agree with me?
Oh, 100%.
And while Mr. Garner was laying on the ground, choking, his life leaving him, nobody tried to help him. They let him there like a dead animal. I have seen animals treated better in a hunting scene than this man Garner. I've never seen anything like this. And this guy got away with murder just now. I'm sick to my stomach that they would do this. Anyone else have a comment? You got one open line at 855-400-7282. You're listening to the Savage Nation. We're talking about breaking news from New York City, which is going to affect all of America, coming as it does on the heels of Ferguson. Daniel Pantaleo, the Staten Island cop accused of putting Eric Garner in a fatal chokehold, was found basically not guilty. Found not guilty. The officer in the chokehold death was just found to be not indictable by a Staten Island Grand Jury. I am sick to my heart over this. Not only is he guilty, by the way, but this was the stupidest decision that could ever have been made, coming on the violence in Ferguson, given that we have vermin like Al Sharpton and the lawyers with long ponytails who work with Sharpton and the Jesse Jacksons and Eric Holder and Barack Obama just waiting to sink their fangs into the heart of America again. Ty on KSFO in San Francisco, what's your opinion?
Yeah, Mike, you're absolutely right about this New York case, but this didn't start just with this case. Remember Rodney King when he was beaten by a gang of L.A. cops, and that set off riots across the country, and those cops...
Well, I wouldn't mix the Rodney King situation in with this for one reason, Ty. Rodney King resisted arrest in a much more physical manner than did Eric Garner. Have you watched the video yet of the Eric Garner case?
No, I haven't seen the video yet.
Well, Ty, if you go watch the video, you can catch it on many sites, including michaelsavage.com. No matter who you are as a human being, your heart's going to go out to the poor black guy as he says, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. This is a sickening story. Thank you for the call. Play that sound again, Robert, so they can hear the man. Listen carefully as the black man's life leaves his body. Listen carefully.
I can't breathe. I I can't breathe. 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 I can't breathe.
I mean, it's heartbreaking. You're listening to a man begging for his life. I don't care that he's 300 pounds, 400 pounds. You had 6 thugs jump on him. They look like jackals. If you watch movies of jackals on an African plain jumping on an animal, you would see no difference between jackals and these NYPD officers. Frankly, all of them should have been indicted for homicide. Forget just the officer who put him in a chokehold. They were all participating in the murder of Eric Garner. That is my opinion. I am sick to my stomach that this happened today, and I wonder what you think about that. We have time for 1 or 2 more calls. We have one open line at 855-400-7282 on the Savage Nation. Let's go to WJHC in Jacksonville, Florida. Charlie, what's your opinion?
Well, I want to agree with you on Ferguson, and I agree with you on the case in New York. But I myself have been mistreated by cops, snatched up, thrown in the back of a cop car. I didn't resist, but if I would have resisted, they would have had the right to deal with me more harshly. But I went through the proper channels, went to the head of the police, and got that particular officer fired. He agreed with me. And that's what people need to do, not that the guy in New York was doing anything wrong that I've seen. That was just...
Oh, he was selling cigarettes on the street that were not taxed. He has a rap sheet of selling cigarettes. He's a poor guy, has a family of 6, probably trying to make a few extra bucks here and there. Is that the best thing they can do with their time, is bust a guy selling cigarettes on the street and then kill him?
No, sir, and when they could have went around the block and probably arrested somebody for selling crack. I mean,
they could have gone around the corner to the Department of Health and Human Services and arrested the head of HHS, who gave $182 million for 4 months housing of illegal alien children to the organization called the Baptist Children and Family Services. You want to talk now? We have to go down the list and play some of the sound that nobody got for us. So I have such great callers today. Sourpuss Krauthammer again attacked Trump because he's jealous of him. The fact is, you know that. Krauthammer once attacked me out of jealousy. He knows I'm a better man than him with a more loyal audience. He knows that. So who does he attack now? The so-called conservative genius, the so-called intellectual genius, Krauthammer. Listen to this post-debate comment by the saddest, most sour man in the history of the media on clip 17.
The real story is the collapse of Trump in this debate. The fact is
the collapse of sauerkraut.
And when you think about it, when he's free form, when he's uninterrupted, when he can do the flight of ideas, when he can go on his own and ramble, he's entertaining, he's sharp, and he's actually amusing.
But 10 here, times when he smarter was than you are,
and in a tight setting, he was lost for most of the debate.
All right,
I think
you get the picture. Why don't you have the guts, the big guts there to say the same thing about Obama, Krauthammer? Your big mouth when it comes to Trump. Why don't you say the same thing about Obama, you big shot, you phony, you? I'm the only one who'll take you on. Everyone's afraid to say a word about you for obvious reasons. Well, I'm not. I'm sick of this entire pack of jackals at Fox News. They are the CNN of today, by the way. I said this a while ago. You know, many of you are wondering why I was banned from Fox. This is not a personal thing to me. I could care less. I've survived without them. They've survived without me. We don't need each other. That's obvious. But I want to tell you something. I've asked myself for years, why am I banished from Fox News? There was a time I used to be, they would run after me because I brought them a huge audience, a tremendous spike in ratings. Why have I been banned from Fox News? I ask myself. Well, you don't have to go any farther than what you saw last night. I don't fit the agenda. I don't fit the agenda of whatever they're pushing here. And they're not pushing conservatism. That we know. It's the opposite of it. So they have become, today, there's been a movement in the media, in the media altogether. Fox today is CNN of 5 years ago. CNN today is MSNBC of 5 years ago. And MSNBC today is the CPUSA of today. I'll be right back.